Well, good afternoon, everybody. Hey, we got some big news for you here on the Daily Scrum. We got our heads together and we've come up with some ideas. Before we tell you those, just to remind you that Ian Phillips will be on with us in a matter of moments. So stay tuned for that great story. We're going to talk about some hockey. That's why Ivan Provorov is on the slide today from the Blue Jackets. He just re-upped with the CBJ for 7 years. He's been here 2 years, has Provorov. He's played every game. Despite having a broken thumb at one point, being banged around, played every single game for the last 2 seasons. So a lot of opinions out there, but it was the market when it came right down to it. Just not a lot of guys out there. And a lot of them going to places they had aimed for all along, not Columbus. And we weren't really slighted this time around. It was just some of the D-men had some destinations they wanted to go to. And Provorov would have demanded what he got from the Blue Jackets and got it on the open market, no doubt about it. And so Blue Jackets, in my opinion, lucky to have him back. He just plays all the time, plays hard, and, I think that defense is going to be better this year. We'll talk with Ian about that in just a moment, but we do have some announcements for you. Next week, we hope Monday, could be Tuesday, but we hope Monday, we will be moving over for the live stream to X, formerly known as Twitter. Some strategic reasons for that. We've got a lot of followers over there, not as many here on YouTube. Now, we're going to go to an earlier time. We're going to go to noon. So if you're out at lunch or listening in, or you have the ability to listen in at lunchtime, we'll be here for you. And then we're going to upload it to YouTube, and it will be available by 3 o'clock. So really, if you're a YouTube person, not a lot of change. It just won't be live. But we're not going to, if we do edit, it will be for really bad things. We're going to leave the live element there. We're not going to try to pasteurize it when we do send it over to YouTube. But it will be live on X coming up, and it will be at noontime. So be ready for that, along with some other kind of just little changes inside. We're not going to become a morning radio show or anything. We're not going to have that many sound effects, but we'll add some music beds to things, and I think will be a lot of fun to help us tell the stories better. So we've got Ian Phillips, who, by the way, has said now that he's ready, and we appreciate that because that is not always the easiest thing. So we're going to give him a shout right now. Let's see if we can get him in the right way today. We'll wait for him to pick up. Ian, are you there?
Hey, Kevin. Yep.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Oh, nothing much.
Okay, you're going to have to be a little more excited than that about talking with me, all right? Let's. Now, I just want to, because the first time people are on, we want to get as much information as we can about them, okay? So I'm going to talk for a little bit, and then we're going to let you fill in, because I know you're a humble guy. But let's see what we can do here. So I met Ian. Actually, it's kind of interesting because I saw him at a summer hockey league, but then we really didn't get to talk until that very same night over at Huntington Park. Ian, I think I met you when you were 17. Does that sound right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So
Great.
Ian was there, and I didn't know that he was such a young man. And we were talking and, about covering, and he was covering the Clippers that night to add to his resume a little bit. But his real love is hockey. Played hockey at Gahanna Lincoln. Got in. I mean, he was kind of, I don't want to say enforcer because that's not a high school thing, but you took a run at some guys, and I don't think that's a secret. Okay. So having said that, we got to talking and about what he wanted to do and just hit it off. I mean, he's just way past his years. And I just had a great time talking to him. And then it developed that he and I now sit next to each other in the Blue Jackets press box in press row there. Our other friend, Ed Francis, sits on my other side. So I have it great up there. It's fantastic for me. Maybe not so much for those guys, but Ian covers that. And not only did he cover it at a very young age, to get credentials is not an easy thing to do. So you've got to have some background in it. You've got to prove that you can be there. And somehow Ian and I got past the gate and into press row. Mine, I look like I belong there. You, just so young, but wrote great stories and has written stories for us here at CBUS Sports. So we know what he can do. Then he went and bought Ohio Hockey Digest. You're not allowed to do that I think you were maybe 18 by that time, and bought that. And now he's a student at OU in the Scripps School down there, which is a prestigious place to be. And in my opinion, could be teaching courses because he has already done it. He's already been out there doing that. Have I misdescribed any of that?
No, okay, that, and yeah, I do quite a few times. I really appreciate all the opportunities, me including today. Very happy to join the show and talk some hockey.
Well, so here's the thing. We do have to fill in one item, and I know you're kind of tired about talking about it because it's not something you let enter into your day to day. But you have been dealing with something on an ongoing basis. So it's not like what you developed has gone away. You're still dealing with it. Can you just give us a thumbnail about that? Because I know you don't like to talk about it a lot.
I have no
but it's a
problem
challenge.
talking about
It's a challenge.
Yeah, it's I was diagnosed with Von disease in 2018 after finishing my grade year. I've had, it started with some vision problems, and it ultimately led I was blind in my left eye, and it's still like that today. I had 14 surgeries, and then basically what Von is a genetic disease. None of my parents, but it's a genetic disease where you can develop tumors in your eye, kidneys, adrenal glands, etc. And I'm fortunate where I've only had a few tumors in my left eye and a few spots right in my brain spine area. And for the last year, it'll be the last 2 years, I've been on a chemotherapy medication. It's called Belzutifan, that we fought pretty hard for. There's an article out in the Dispatch. I can probably explain it better than I could right now. But yeah, I mean that's the long story short, pretty much. But yeah.
Yeah, well, and so this, it developed at a young age when, frankly, I don't think I would have had the maturity to deal with it as you have. I mean, you continued to play hockey with one eye. And if anybody's ever played sports, especially a fast-moving sport like hockey, you can imagine. I mean, I know in baseball, if you lose an eye, that's it. You don't get to play anymore. You continued. I have never once heard you complain. Now, and I know you won't say these things, so I'm going to say them for you. I've never heard you complain about it. I'm sure there are a lot of off days for you because even if chemo is in the form of a pill, that can't be easy. And you, again, have just done incredible work. You've written for us, so I've seen it. The editing takes about 30 seconds of your stories. And now being in class for all that stuff, that's pretty rare that you get through the editing process that quickly. And then for you to buy Ohio Hockey Digest, which we'll talk about more, and go with that, with all that you're doing, I'm just telling everybody out there, you don't have to respond to this. I'm telling you, this is an extraordinary human being. And I feel super lucky to have become friends because in your life, you just are not going to meet a lot of people like this. So hats off to you. We all hope that whatever can progress and get better, that it does, and that you just continue this path that you're on. And as I've told you, the only thing I want out of it after all this is I would like tickets when you're in the big time.
Well, I appreciate that, Kevin.
So,
I really do.
well, let's talk about first about what, I mean, you're a Gahanna kid. What brought you to hockey in the first place?
Well, I was in, I think, second grade when my dad took me out to a game. And I remember Jared Bull fought Chris Neal that night. And I saw the fight and I was hooked. And that was kind of like what started it. I was like, can guys really do that? Just drop the gloves and go to timeout and get back to the game.
So,
like, there's no way.
yeah. So it wasn't shooting the puck or skating down the ice. It was losing the gloves.
Yeah, I've been roller skating since I was 18 months old. You know, we do our, you know, I do my birthday party at the United Skates of America out on Refugee Road.
Yeah, just right there on your side of town. Yep.
Yeah, so I kind of had a little bit of a, you know, a upper hand getting into hockey, you know, not having skated before, but kind of having some of the motions down. And then, I mean, yeah, it's kind of flash forward and here we are. But
well, and then of course you start playing, and you know, I mean, high school you don't get to drop the gloves in high school, but you do get to be physical,
yeah,
and clearly that was part of your game.
Yeah, I've always had an edge to my game. I feel like, you know, especially going through what I went through, some of my skill level, you know, kind of took a hit when I was going through some of the medical stuff. So I kind of had to figure out how I could have, you know, be effective in other areas of the game and other aspects. And honestly, looking back at it, I really am thankful for what I went through. I think it made me a lot stronger. And I think it kind of made me persevere, which is, you know, it taught me lessons that I'll use for my entire life, you know, in regards to kind of pivoting. And, you know, I was used to one thing and then I kind of had to switch up my whole game and go on to another. And, you know, that's what's kind of been in life. So, I mean, yeah, looking back on it, and, you know, back to what you were saying about all the stuff that I went through, I am really thankful that it happened to me at such a young age, because I don't think I would have, first of all, I don't think I would have handled it as well now as I did then. And second off, it just taught me so many lessons in life to, you know, kind of just go with the flow and persevere. And I've used it a lot in hockey, especially with my playing, you know, in my playing days. And yeah, that's kind of what I turned into, was a grinder, somewhat enforcer, you know, not really. I mean, my senior year of high school, I was put out there to kind of get in people's heads. And,
which I witnessed. And by the way, he was successful. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you were there sitting in the penalty box for that opener last year. So, yeah, you've seen it up close. You know, it's just kind of using some of these skills to refine my game. And, yeah. Yeah,
it's fun to watch. Now, of course, you know, leading up then to your diagnosis, you were on an upward trajectory as a player. You traveled a lot and played with some guys who now we've seen, in fact, this year that were drafted. You played against.
Yeah.
So you were playing at a pretty high level for a long time.
Yeah, when I was diagnosed, I had only been playing for 2 years when I was diagnosed. So I was kind of just, you know, more or less starting out. I was playing some select teams. And then actually the most progression I did was after I had my diagnosis. So I started playing travel. I played with the Easton Youth Hockey Association when they created the AA team. So I was playing AA travel with them. When I was 15, I moved on and played a year of Thunderbirds, which, you know, I did the most traveling. We played in a lot of prospect tournaments throughout the, it's called the NAPHL, which is like the funnel into the NAHL.
Right.
So a lot of the guys that went on to play in the NAHL are guys that played in those tournaments. So, yeah, that was pretty much the height of my hockey playing career. And then my sophomore year, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and I decided to quit travel hockey. I was actually kind of out of the game for a little bit, and then the opportunity just kind of arose with Gahanna, and I decided to play again, and I finished out my sophomore year with Gahanna's varsity team, and then stayed with them for the last 2 years.
Well, and you've made great friends there, and in fact, I think one of your coaches there has been the emergency goalie, right, for the Blue Jackets?
Yep. Tyler Murphy. His brother is Connor Murphy with the Blackhawks, and his dad, I think his name's Gord Murphy. He was a coach for a while. He was an assistant coach. I know he was with New York for a while, the Rangers. So I was very, very fortunate to have him as a coach my last 2 years of high school, and he's somebody that I turn to for advice, quite frequently. So he's definitely, shout out to him, one of the greatest human beings I know, and definitely a great person to have around in the hockey world too.
The writing, when did that start?
That was junior year, so that was pretty much at the end of sophomore year, beginning of junior year. I was just kind of feeling out what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I know I wanted to work in hockey, and that was kind of the main factor in going into writing. I knew I obviously couldn't, play in the NHL. I wasn't, that great at hockey, but I knew I had the knowledge to go somewhere with it. So the opportunity arose with Ohio Hockey Digest. I remember seeing an ad on Twitter that was like, hey, if you are interested in hockey writing, come out and write. We have writing opportunities available from high school to the NHL. And I saw the NHL, and it just kind of caught my eye.
Yeah, I'm sure. And so your first articles, how did you do? I mean, how did you feel? Because again, you're so young. I mean, this is when high school people are just trying to figure it out, and, there wasn't the AI to do your stories for you. You had to do everything. And by the way, your stories would have been much better than AI even is now. So you would have known. But who's the first person that said, this is something, or when did you first feel that, this is definitely something I can do?
Well, honestly, the Gahanna JV coach at the time, Danny Shirey, was a beat writer for the Pittsburgh Penguins for DK Pittsburgh Sports. And I saw he posted a few things about going to Madison Square Garden to cover the Penguins towards the end of the year. And I was like, well, that sounds pretty damn cool. And yeah. I really think, I knew Danny pretty well, and I first started writing articles covering the TSCHL, the Tri-State Collegiate Hockey League. It's a ACHA Division II. And we'll actually talk a little bit more about the TSCHL later, but I started writing articles, and I felt great writing them. And I kind of look back today, and the articles were not great, but there were just, little parts of the game that I could dissect. And, I tried my best to take 3 big storylines out of each week and just dive into them, ask a lot of questions to players and coaches. And then just take, I didn't really know what I was doing at first, but, I knew I could take some of the quotes and build a story out of it. So I was just trying my best. And those articles are actually still up on Ohio Hockey Digest today.
Oh, that's great. Now, we had a chance then to, have you write some stuff for us, which was great. You traveled a little bit for us, and I think you did Chicago, right? And, it was just, just know that you can do it. But what people don't know is to really get a good byline, or for what you don't feel guilty about putting your name on it, is, especially for gamers, game stories, is to get quotes in it that you get. Could be in a scrum, for which this show is named, or it could be individually, and you've done both. But after a game, the way that it works is we go down into the the first floor of Nationwide Arena, and after the players have talked with the coaches or whatever happens inside that room. We've never been in it when that's going on, and rightfully so. We wait in the hallway. We then are ushered into the locker room, which is beautiful on the Jacket side. And we get, basically after a game, we get 3 people that they've designated for us. And Dave Metzel, for his network, gets to go first because they're live, and he has to get feed up to them. But then we get to ask questions, and that's always gone well. I don't usually ask a lot. Ian probably has asked more than I have. And then once we're done with players, we go to the little conference room where there's a podium, and then the coach comes out. And we've seen a few coaches since we've been there. I think Dean Evison will be back. That will be the longest tenured for a while. But there we can ask questions again. And you as a 17 and 18-year-old in those days, I think are you 19 now? Or are you older?
Yeah, I'm 19 years old now.
Yeah, that just is not right. But in that room, you've also done, and nobody asks you how old you are. Nobody says, hey, when you get recognized by name. And that just got to be the coolest thing. But how did you have, I'm still getting my feet under me. I've been there 2.5 years, I guess, doing this. And I still feel like I'm learning how to do that part of it. And I've interviewed, maybe thousands of people. But there's something about a new sport where you kind of got to get your legs underneath you. You got to figure out, because you don't want to insult people by questions, and you don't want to ask something that's kind of, over the line. So you learn that as you go. I'm still learning that. How did you have the presence at your age just to jump in and do that?
Well, I mean, the tough questions are the questions that'll get you the most views, and it'll kind of get your name out there. So I think, getting over the initial fear of just insulting somebody, that was a big step for me. And once I was kind of over that, I really just tried to word my questions carefully so that they knew what angle I was coming from, no matter who I was interviewing. And, there have been a few questions that might have struck a chord, but I think that is better than asking no question at all. And I don't, I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for the viewers, and I'm, doing it for the people that support me and read my articles, and the people that sponsor Ohio Hockey Digest. And I know they'd be a lot more comfortable with me putting my face out there, putting my voice out there, and actually asking the questions. But it is kind of a big step, especially the first came in when I was 17 years old. I really did not want to step on anybody's feet with the questions, and I really didn't want to rub anybody the wrong way. But I learned it a lot my second season covering the team. I was seeing everybody pretty much every day since I was a senior at Gahanna, and I was only in class from 12:30 to 1:30. So I'd hit the morning skates, I'd talk to players, and then I'd be in math 15 minutes later.
Yeah, isn't that something?
For every game, and I think once people saw my face a lot more, it made it a lot easier to ask those questions.
Yeah, and you're right. It is great to ask questions. I try to, the ones that I have, as I say, I kind of lay back, and if they get asked, I don't come up with something new for the sake of it. Because what you learn is you can tell the article that somebody's going to write by the questions they ask, because they've probably asked each of the players, and then they'll ask the coach, same kind of theme thing. So you can kind of tell where they're coming from, and you fit right into that. It's just been fun to watch. It's been fun for me just to see the process. I enjoyed a lot. And I've enjoyed kind of going one-on-one with people, because I can be more of a smart aleck when that happens, which is my style. You're a very serious guy. But I've learned also the other parts of your personality sitting up. We have a really good time on press row, and I think that's the part that someday when I have to step down, or they ask me to step down, that I will miss, because that, I think I've learned more. I mean, I didn't play hockey. I've loved the sport since I was a kid, and my dad and I would come up when he was covering every once in a while back to the Owls when they played, and certainly the Chill. But it's just something I have a great time being around, and to be able to get advice, from the people around who have been around it and played it, has just been really lucky for me. And it's great that I can tell people, at my age, I'm still learning from teenagers, and that is not a bad thing. That is a very positive thing. And Ian has been just so much help to me, to understand the game. Because I have a lot of, I mean, people say there are no dumb questions. I have dumb questions, and he's been patient enough to do that. So let's talk about your acquisition of the Ohio Hockey Digest. You were writing for them, as you said, and doing that. And then one day you decided, I'm just going to buy the thing. Well, how did that come about?
Well, actually, I didn't buy it. It was Scott Harrington, who also is one of the great people in the sport. He's given a lot just in coverage to so many teams around Ohio, and he's given a voice to a lot of teams that didn't really have one. And I started writing for him my junior year, and after I was writing for CBus Sports for a little bit, and towards the end of the year, we didn't know what things were looking like. So Scott texted me, and he let me know that he was moving on from Ohio Hockey Digest, and he would still be involved, but he needed somebody else to kind of drive the bus for him. And I just
thanks for the bus reference, by the way. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah. And so does he still own it then?
No, I own it. We have an LLC now. So
okay. See, that's what I'm saying. You're the owner, right? You didn't own it when you
know.
wrote for it to begin with, but now you do.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how is that? How do you feel about, I mean, I think I still had a paper route when I mean, I'm trying to understand the moxie in you to say, you know what, I'll buy it.
It's still kind of it was kind of a whirlwind when it happened. You know, a lot of things were happening real quickly, and it was right as I was about to go to college. So I really didn't know what it was going to look like. And last year was a big learning experience, and I was, it wasn't as much writing as it was managing the site. You know, there were a lot of speed bumps and stuff like that. And, right now we're at a point where we're building a new site. We're looking to change our platform, so it'll just be more optimal for me and for everybody else who's involved with it. We're starting a podcast next season, so that'll be something to look out for. We'll definitely have you on there as much as we can.
Oh, that'd be great. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we're still kind of figuring things out, but it's been great. I took on an intern at Ohio University, Josh Knuckles, who's been a great help. He's helped me out with a lot more of the managing aspect of the site. And we're really starting to get things rolling now, and I'm really excited to see where it's going to go.
Well, we're all excited about that. And that we'll, on our side of things, we'll do everything we can to be helpful. It means a lot to me personally. So I'm thrilled for you there. How has school gone after all that? And now this is not, this is not an easy school, man. You're at a place where it's as I said before, a prestigious program. How are you doing?
It's been the greatest experience of my life, to be honest with you. Everybody there is, they're all really intellectual people. I have a lot of great resources. The Scripps School is top notch, and they give you any resource that you might need. Every professor that I've had has been extremely supportive of what I'm doing, and they all know about Ohio Hockey Digest, and they've given me a lot of kind of a leeway to do projects around my hockey stuff, and it's been amazing so far. I was never a great student in high school. I was always kind of I get my work done and I'd pass, but this year I got Dean's List twice, and it's been great. I can't say enough good things about everybody at the Scripps School. Well,
with all you're doing, congratulations on that, because I'm sure you could have done just fine in high school, but you had some things to deal with. And the fact that you got through all that, played, wrote, did the things that you've got to do for your health, just fantastic. So I'm really happy for you doing that. Now I'm going to pick your brain a little bit and this is what we'll do from now on. I don't, but I'm really, as a third party, removed here. I'm just so proud of all that you've done, and I'm amazed by the talent, and I'm so eager to see where it all goes. But right now, I'm going to put you on the spot. to talk about the Blue Jackets, which we've talked about a bunch for a while now. What did you see in the draft that made an impression on you?
Well, a lot of people going into the drafts were expecting Don Waddell to do something big. And it was kind of the impression that at the end of the season, we're going to shake things up a lot. We're going to see a lot of new faces. And that's not exactly what he did. We had 2 first-round picks, and Don decided to use those picks to select 2 players, which a lot of people didn't really expect. And when it happened, I can't say I was too surprised because he was shopping those picks around. It's pretty well-known information that, those were definitely up for grabs, but nothing really materialized out of it. And, if you can't find a deal that's worth your while in the NHL, you just need to, go with the flow and roll with the punches. And he made 2 great selections. They got Jackson Smith. And what I've seen out of him is some of the best skating out of a prospect I've seen. And
he's a big guy. I mean, that was the other theme, is how big all these guys, especially on the blue line, they want. So,
yeah, 100%. And for a big guy to move like he does, I saw it at development camp. I mean, he's a special guy. And I think down the road, he's going to be a force for the Blue Jackets. And then Peter Andreanov, which he won't be in the league. He just signed a 5-year contract today in the KHL.
Yeah, that he can get out of in 4 years. It sounded like he had an option there, yeah.
Yeah, there's supposedly an NHL movement clause at the end of the 4th year, so we could see him, earliest 2029.
And he'll be all of 22 at that point, but yeah.
Yeah. And most goalies take even longer to make it to the NHL regardless. So for anybody that's worried about that, don't worry. It's not anything, that's going to take away from his time in Columbus. And, Russia is not a bad place for goalies to develop at all, especially playing in the KHL.
Right. And he'll be playing for one of the Moscow teams, which will get him a lot of action. So,
he'll be playing big games, and he'll have plenty of big moments to develop. And some of the other picks, I know they took Malte Voss in the 3rd round, who they had really high on their draft board. I mean, they would have taken him if they had another 1st-round selection. They would have taken him in the 1st round. And that's kind of the theme with Don Waddell. He's not afraid to make a move that, some people would scratch their heads at. But, if it's the right move, it's the right move. And Yarmo kind of had a similar philosophy, especially when he took Yegor Chinikov in the 1st round when everybody thought he was going 5th or 6th round.
Yeah.
And, Chinikov, besides the injuries, he's a solid NHL guy. He's a smart player. So I'm impressed by the way they went about the draft. And, looking at last season where they finished a point out of the playoffs. You really don't need to make many upgrades when you think about how young this team is. Well, and they've got a lot of developing guys. And if they're a point out of the playoffs last year and a bunch of developing guys, you can count that they'll be in the hunt this year again too.
Yeah, and from my perspective, I think one of the big acquisitions is getting Charlie Coyle, who is a veteran. When we had a chance to interview him on Zoom, I think he was in Cape Cod somewhere. That interview couldn't have gone better about his wanting to be here. He's just such a smart guy, smart player, and he sounds like he knows what his role is going to be, and he has embraced it. And I think he'll make especially on the defensive side, I think he'll make a massive, massive impact.
Yeah, 100%. You can't forget about the guys that we're losing in Sean Crowley and Justin Danforth, and they're great players. But we are upgrading the bottom 6 with Coyle and Miles Wood. So it's not a point of concern at all with the bottom 6. And I think, they're still going to be real solid next year. And like you said, Charlie Coyle is going to be a fantastic addition to the club. You have the veteran leadership is so important for the younger guys and the guys that are coming in, and, the Delbo Belouzas that are kind of in and out of the NHL. That'll, they'll be staples on the Blue Jackets for a while. But you don't have those players develop the way they do without guys like Charlie Coyle. And Don Waddell knows that, and that's why they made that signing.
So let's talk about the extensions, the blue line extensions that went to Fabro and to Provorov, with Provorov 7 years. And I know there's been a lot of discussion online about that. But, man, I don't know what else you do. It would have been the worst ever to try to do deals and lose Provorov at the same time. That would have been a disaster.
Yeah, and Don knew that he had to either keep Provorov or, retain a top 4 defensive player. And I think, when some stuff didn't work out, there was no secret that they went after Dobson, and that didn't work out. And there were a few other players that were in the mix. And, the market for defensemen is pretty expensive right now. And the deal that they made with Provorov, in my opinion, it's an expensive deal, but it's not necessarily a bad one. I think the Provorov deal was, 7 years? I'd have to look at it.
It's an 8.5 in that range. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a good deal, and it's a little bit above market price, but it's not something I'd be worried about. And yeah, everybody knows they have plenty of cap space to work with still. And then with Fabro, I think Fabro was one of the more impressive players in the NHL last year. I think he
totally agree. Yep.
I think him and Zach Werenski are top pairing in the NHL. I think they will continue to be for years to come. And I think it's a great deal, especially for where the market's at. And I think it kind of makes up for the expense that Provorov has.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I think you're right. You got to look at those deals together. I totally agree. Yep.
100%. I think Waddell's head was in the right place, especially through both of those deals. And yeah, I think it'll be pretty fruitful for years to come.
Now, last thing about the Jackets, and in talking about Andreanov, obviously the goalie situation, it looks right now as though it's going to be Jet and Merzlikins, Greaves and Merzlikins, the two guys. Is it a 1A, 1B thing? Are they splitting time?
Well, I'm no goalie expert, and I think last year Jet Greaves was phenomenal. And I think towards the end of the season especially, everybody saw that he was a rising star in the NHL. And I think it'll be real important for Elvis to get his feet wet still, and definitely not go anywhere unless there's, some fantastic trades that make their way to Don Waddell's desk. But Elvis Merzlikins has had a rough go of things since his rookie year. He's gone through some pretty incredible things off the ice, which, it's in the NHL, you really don't get to have excuses like that. But he definitely, he's gone through some stuff. He lost his best friend, and he it's just been a rough go of things. And I think if there is kind of a situation where he gets to split time, I think it'll be beneficial for him. I think, being the guy is not always the best place to be for a goalie. It's a different game for goalies. It's 85% mental with goaltending. So I think if it's a situation where they split time, I'm really excited to see what can happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be. Well, I think that's one of the first things we'll look for when the season starts. I think there's probably still one more deal to be made, and I think it'll be for a forward somewhere. I don't know why I think that, but that's just a kind of a I don't know, just a feeling that I've got at the moment based on what we've seen in the past. In all of that 1 year with Don Waddell, I think there's a forward left to be had. But we're all looking forward to it. We're looking forward to the schedule coming out here in just a few days, so that we can plan a couple of roadies. And you're going to have to figure out how to mix that in with your classes. We'll need to know when your breaks are, so that we can head to the road a little bit.
I'd love to. And schedule. I do have some information on that. It's supposed to drop next week.
Okay.
So definitely be on the lookout for that. I'm real excited for this season to get underway, and I've been missing the heck out of.
Oh, I know.
Hockey.
It doesn't take long, man. It does not take long, and you just hope everybody comes in shape. And of course, the one guy we'll finish up with this, but Voronkov being signed, which I was happy about. I think they gave him the right amount of time in terms of the term of a couple of years. But I know they're hoping he'll come in. And again, I don't have any personal knowledge of this, but some of the reports out there is that he could be in a little better shape coming in. I never know about that because those guys are, they're up and down the ice so much. I don't know how you do that and not be in shape. But I think that's been a concern, perhaps. At least that's what the reporting says. But boy, what an impact he could make if he goes back to his style of play from the KHL, where he was known to be very physical. I think that could be a huge help around the net.
Yeah, and young guys like that, he's still getting used to the NHL in a sense, and he's still developing a lot. And the biggest thing he has is his size. And I mean, he's a pretty big guy. Especially, I know you and I see him in person quite a bit, and he definitely looks a lot bigger than on TV.
Yeah, he sure does. Yeah,
he's a good presence to have, especially on the power play in front of the net.
Well, and he's got good hands. He's got good hands around the net. And if he could, we saw him do it a couple of times. There was a time when he was behind the net in the offensive zone, and he kept the puck in play and like two guys at bay who were trying to push him and they couldn't move him. And you just go, that is not usual. That's not something you see every day. And if he could play like that consistently, I think that's really something.
Yeah, he's a hard player to move, and perhaps the thing he got the biggest improvement on last year was his play behind the net. And it's so important to have guys that can really grind in the corners like that. And he's really learning how to, and overseas you play on a lot bigger ice, and it really is an adjustment for those European and Russian players to play on the smaller ice. But he's starting to get used to it. He's getting really good behind the net, and he's somebody that'll hopefully be another staple in the Blue Jackets lineup.
And I think he's working out with Marchenko in the offseason, which he may have done before, but you get the feeling that Marchenko now has that ability as a leader, pretty established, to get him going too. So I think that'll be because there were some rumors about Voronkov leaving, in one of those trades. And I think that would have been really bad for him to get away from Marchenko, because I think that's just a bonus for him. And a driving force. And I'm glad to see that they'll be together to see what develops.
Yeah, 100%. And, when he came to Columbus, he had a great room around him, and there were a lot of Russians in this room too.
Yep.
There still are. And I think that's important if you're a young guy and you're going to a country that nobody speaks your language. It's good to have people around that know where you came from, know what language you speak, and they've kind of made that transition too. And he's very fortunate to have all those guys around him. He knows that too.
Oh, yeah. And I think he would have been, unless he went to another place where there were a lot of Russian speakers, I think that would have been bad for him. So I'm really glad that he's back, and we'll see what he can do. But you know what? You and I will see it together. And hopefully they don't change the seating chart too much, because otherwise there's a lot of guys up there that won't answer my questions. Let's be honest. On press row. They don't know what, they don't know me like you know me. And, we've got to keep that. So I'll put in a special request with the boys and gals up in the media department to make sure we're at least close. Okay. So don't mess that up. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Hey, you know what? Again, really proud of you and all the work that you've done. And, that if there's anything with Ohio Hockey Digest that we can help with, that we're there. And let's put some trips together in your off time this year.
100%.
All right, man. That's Ian Phillips. I am happy to call him a colleague, but even happier to call him a friend. And, we'll get back to you in a couple of weeks, see how you're doing.
I appreciate it, Kevin. Thank you so much.
You bet, man. That was Ian Phillips today. And if you were listening to that and you said to yourself, that guy is not 19 years old with his insights. Imagine when I first met him, he was doing that at 17. Man, he's going to be. We need to follow him because he is going. He's going to the heights, and we're going to try to follow him along the way as long as we can. And again, maybe there'll be tickets. I don't know. I'm just saying, just throwing it out there. Hey, if I didn't remind you, or if I didn't tell you to begin with today, this has been 5 days, 5 guests, and tomorrow we will have Chris Sprague, who is the media director. Probably got a fancier title. We'll get that exactly right tomorrow, but he's in charge of the media for the Columbus Clippers, who've been having a little bit of a rough patch, but they're at home now. They had an afternoon game today. They may still be playing, but then it'll be night games tomorrow. That is Friday and Saturday, and then 105 game on Sunday, all against the Louisville Bats. So if you're a Reds fan, you can get out there and watch the Bats play a little bit. See the guys that'll be coming out. I've already been up. Reese Hines is batting cleanup for Louisville this week. He'll probably find his way back to the Reds before the season's over. So a lot of things to watch for there. And there's some guys, if you're a Guardians fan, you should be coming out all the time because there are a couple of guys that are putting some pressure on them. And if you follow the Guardians and the Clippers on social media, you may know who those play. I don't want to jinx them, but you know who those guys are. And then next week is All-Star Week in the International League, and the Clippers have a couple of guys that are going up. Pitcher Parker Messick is going up, along with first baseman / outfielder C.J. Kafis. Also, they have yet to make their debuts with the Guardians, but they're not far away, and they'll go to the Futures game to be played, I believe, Sunday. No, they may have to leave early. I didn't think about that. I think that might be Sunday. So they will not be, I would think they won't be available for the Clippers on Sunday, but I could be wrong. We'll update that tomorrow with Chris Sprague. But anyway, they will go down to Atlanta and play in the Futures game. So that's a great honor. Congratulations to them. And again, Chris Sprague on with us tomorrow. And last, we want to make sure you know that we've got changes. We're going to go to X. Next week is our primary live platform. And we're going to do that at the noon hour. We think that'll get us some more views and get some more people on board and grow this thing a little faster. And then we'll upload the show to YouTube once we get a little workflow put together. Tomorrow, though, back same time, 3 o'clock on YouTube Live. We hope you'll join us again. Chris Sprague coming in. Thanks today to our good friend, Ian Phillips. Start watching Ohio Hockey Digest because they got some big things coming up, especially, I'm sure they'll get some new things to you right before the hockey season coming up this year. 25-26 version of the Blue Jackets, but also they cover all levels of hockey, as you can imagine. High school, college, just so much being played now in Ohio. And every once in a while, we may get a photo credit on there. I'm just saying, take a look. But yeah, check out Ohio Hockey Digest. They're, also their social platforms. And I think you'll get a lot of good hockey knowledge at all the levels. Well, that's what we do. And we'll have Ian on again soon to talk about hockey. But what a great story. Hope you had a chance to listen to that. If you didn't, go back and listen to his background because it's inspirational. Sure is for us. All right. Tomorrow, 3 o'clock on YouTube. Next week, we'll move to Twitter at noon. That's what's going on. But today, we're going to go enjoy the afternoon. Hope you do the same. This is Kevin Rouch. For everybody here in Studio B and the Daily Scrum, so long.